So it's an advocacy group. It's not for profit. It's not connected to a political party. It's not left or right, I hope. And it's entirely focused on public policy from a centrist point of view. And I think we give voice to those who have things on their mind, but also to those who have good ideas. So we've developed, you may have seen 3 big pieces so far. One on energy, one on education, one on the budget. I've got one coming on transparency, and we have probably 2 or 3 more after that. These are big ideas and set, if you will, a different strategic direction for the state. We thought, particularly I thought, that 2007, 2008 marked kind of a big curtain came down. That was then and this is now, and now is not as good as then was. And public policy that doesn't change to reflect the world around it is public policy that inevitably turns mean to the very people it's for, which I think is what's largely happening. What we've tried to do is focus on issues that are, we think, at the heart of who Vermonters think we are. So on the one hand, we're practical and frugal, and on the other hand, we're compassionate, and we are there to help our friends and neighbors in need, give them a comforting hand or give them a helping hand. So we start with those 2 premises, and we thought we could accomplish everything we imagined while holding those things dear. So having said that, 5 governors in a row. Let me just speak for the next 3 in a row. So it'll be 3 in the future that we don't know who they are, and 5 back have always said, jobs are my most, biggest priority. Right. It's an easy thing to say, isn't it? It's kind of a general thing. Jobs come from roofs usually. Pump land on the table. There's a job for you. Not exactly. Best time to think about building an economy was yesterday. Next best is today. And if you're not going to do it today, then do it tomorrow. We have terrible demographics in the state. It's hard to blame a single thing on for that, but this one of the few states with this kind of population growth, which is to say 0 to slightly negative. And if you take a couple of hot towns or hot counties out, the state's really suffering a loss, as if you had a Vermont in a saw that was taking pieces of the state off, like the southern and central parts and the very northern part. And then on top of that, that in the demographics, the part that where we shine, the number of 65-plus-year-olds as a percentage of the population, top 10. Those are a bad set of demographics that look more like kind of one of those sleepy European countries than a different kind of America. And if we imagine creating a vibrant, dynamic economy, then we could start imagining a different kind of set of demographics, but also refilling commercial centers. It'd be nice to have a busier Bennington, or a busier Brattleboro, or a busier Rutland, for gosh sakes. Yeah. So we'd look at things through the prism of, keeping in mind those twin goals of having, compassionate, comforting, helping hand, but also having a practical and frugal side to us, and wanting to create or set the stage for a very dynamic economy. We look at things that are at the heart of it. So we've focused on education. For the money we spend, we ought to have not simply among the best in America, we ought to have among the best in the world. But we ought to set our sights a lot higher. We ought to have a pre-K. We think the money is there. It simply needs to be reallocated. And by the way, we could actually pay teachers a fair wage.
So where would you reallocate from, though?
Well, we talk about consolidation for one example. We simply said if we spent what, say, Massachusetts spends per child, they arguably have the best education system in America and maybe the 10th best in the world. We would spend $150 million less. If we imagine starting in 2000 that our total, if you will, spending for education would grow at a rate of, say, 7% instead of the 8%, that would be about $150 million. We think there's some combination of things to do that would get us about $150 million. I'm not saying give it back to you. Some of it could go down to pay down property taxes, but you could do a whole bunch of things that, frankly, might enable us to focus on what's going on in the classroom. We're trying to build a very broad-based coalition around ideas and direction. And so I'm here
Mm-hmm.
in your town, and I'll be in another town later, and tomorrow I'll be in another town. Last night I was speaking in another part of this part of the state. All designed to build a coalition.
Yeah. And so you develop a policy, and perhaps